So, the 2025 F1 season kicks off in Melbourne this week, and with all 20 drivers fired up and ready to race, we are going to rank them from worst to best. Now, to make the comparison fair, we'll be ranking them based on 4 categories: Racecraft, pace, adaptability, and consistency. Now, each category has a score from 1 to 10, and each driver is ranked on the basis of their final average score. And some of these might even catch you by surprise. So let's get started. So kicking off the list with P20, we have Jack Doohan, who's been given a 6 in Racecraft, a 7 in pace, a 6.5 in adaptability, and also a 6.5 in consistency, giving him an overall score of 6.5. Now, Jack has had some amazing runs in Formula 2, but his outing in Abu Dhabi last year did not inspire much confidence within the Alpine management, and it seems like he's lacking the edge some of the other rookies possess. But moving on to P19, we have Lance Stroll, who's received a 6.5 in Racecraft, pace, and adaptability, and a 7 in consistency, bringing his overall score to 6.7. Now, Lance is surprisingly one of the more experienced drivers on the grid now and has had some brilliant moments like Turkey 2020, but those seem like distant memories now, and his lack of consistency since then has costed him dearly. But moving on to P18, we have Isaac Hadjar, who's received a 6.5 in Racecraft, a 7 in pace, a 7 in adaptability, and a 7 in consistency, bringing his overall score to 6.9. Now, Isaac has had some brilliant performances in Formula 2, but it is to be seen how well he copes against Yuki Tsunoda and against the pressure from the Red Bull Racing family in Formula 1. Now, next up is P17, and we have got Gabriel Bortoleto in that slot, who's received a 7 in Racecraft, a 7.5 in pace, a 6.5 in adaptability, and a 7 in consistency, bringing his total score to 7. Now, Gabriel is an exciting driver, and he's just won the Formula 2 World Championship, but we are ranking him lower than other rookies due to his lack of F1 testing, and it would be interesting to see how he copes against the likes of Kimi Raikkonen and the other rookies who have had extensive testing in Formula 1 cars. One of whom is Oliver Bearman, who has received 7s all across, bringing his overall score to 7 as well. Now, Ollie has had some experience by driving for both Ferrari and Haas last year, which might give him some edge, but maybe not as much of an edge as Kimi Antonelli, who is ranked 15 and has received 7 in Racecraft, a 7.5 in pace, and a 7 for both adaptability and consistency, bringing his overall score to 7.2. Now, Antonelli is being touted as the next Verstappen, and it seems like he has a raw pace to back that up, but he still needs to be more consistent and tune out some of those mistakes, which could be due to inexperience. But again, he's been given tens of thousands of kilometers of testing with Mercedes, so we do expect him to be ready come race time on Sunday. Now, next up, we have P14, which goes to Esteban Ocon, who's received a 7 in Racecraft, a 7.5 in pace and adaptability, and a 7 in consistency, bringing his overall score to 7.3. Now, Ocon had an ugly divorce with Alpine, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that he is their only race winner. He does lack consistency, but also has his moments of brilliance, and he also tends to tangle a lot with his teammates, one of whom is Pierre Gasly, who we have ranked at P13. Now, Gasly has received a 7.5 for both Racecraft and pace, a 7 for adaptability, and a 7.5 for consistency, bringing his overall score to 7.4. Now, Gasly is quite similar to Ocon. He is mostly forgettable, but he also has a few good moments, one of which was putting the Alpine P3 in Vegas last year. He was also one of the very few drivers with a very low damage bill last year, which I'm pretty sure that the Alpine team would have appreciated. But moving on to P12, that goes to Liam Lawson, who's received a 7 in Racecraft, an 8 in pace and adaptability, and a 7 in consistency, bringing his overall score to 7.5. Now, Lawson is more aggressive than we all expected, but it seems like he has the pace to back it up, and let's just hope that Max doesn't completely destroy his motivation or career, because he's done that to almost all of his teammates. So it'll be interesting to see how Lawson fares up against Verstappen next year. Now, at P11, we have Yuki Tsunoda, who's received a 7 in Racecraft, an 8 in pace, a 7 in adaptability, and an 8 in consistency, and his overall score is the same as Liam Lawson at 7.5. Now the reason we have ranked Yuki higher than Liam is because of his experience in Formula 1. Yuki's aggressive and fearless driving style has always been his strength and weakness, and when he is on form, he can terrorize the back markers, but his inconsistency has held him from reaching that top level and that top seed at Red Bull Racing. But now let's move on to the top 10, because this is where things get a bit more serious. So at P10 we have Alex Albon, who's received an 8 for Racecraft, a 7.5 for pace, a 7 for adaptability, and an 8 for consistency, bringing his overall score to 7.7. Now Alex might lack the raw pace, but he has helped Williams quite a bit over the last few years, and some might even call him underrated. So it would be interesting to see how he fares up against Carlos Sainz, as his previous teammates at Williams have clearly not been at his level. But moving on to P9, we have Nico Hülkenberg, who's received an 8 for Racecraft and pace, a 7 for adaptability, and an 8 for consistency, bringing on his overall score to 7.8. Nico is a veteran now, and he's starting his 15th season in Formula 1. He's put that Haas car in positions where it shouldn't have qualified, but it seems like that elusive podium still might be a few years away, at least until Sauber fully becomes Audi. Now next up at P8 we have Oscar Piastri, who's received 8s all across. Now Oscar is going to be the one to watch out for this season if McLaren actually has the advantage that everyone believes they do. He's quite mature and calm in the car, and he also seems to have a higher ceiling than Lando, but still needs to work on his time management and his overall consistency through a race weekend. Now at P7 we have George Russell, who's received a 7 in Racecraft, a 9 in pace, a 8 in adaptability, and a 8.5 in consistency, bringing his total score to 8.2. Now George was one of the best qualifiers last season and is now team leader at Mercedes, but he still is prone to mistakes and lacks the overall race pace. But let's also remember that he's one of the very few to have beaten Lewis Hamilton over a season, and that is no easy task. He can ask that to his good mate Fernando Alonso, who we have ranked at P6. We have given Alonso a Racecraft rating of 9 and a rating of 8 for pace, adaptability, and consistency, bringing his overall score to 8.3. Now despite his age, Alonso is just as good as he used to be, and when he had a good car in 2023, he was right up there collecting podiums, and he's called the wily old fox for a good reason. So once Aston Martin sorts the car out, I fully expect the Spaniard to be back in form and up there collecting podiums again. But talking about a fast and a smart Spaniard, we've got Carlos Sainz in P5, and he's received a 9 for Racecraft, 8 for pace and adaptability, and an 8.5 for consistency, bringing his overall score to 8.4. Now Carlos might not be the quickest guy out there, but he is quite consistent and is one of the smartest drivers in a car, almost at par with Alonso. Remember Singapore 2023 when he dragged Lando and won the race? Well, at least this time around Lando is ranked higher at P4, and he's received a 8 for Racecraft, a 9 for adaptability and pace, and an 8 for consistency, bringing his overall score to 8.5. Now Lando had the quickest car last year and he should have won the championship, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he still is one of the best drivers on the grid right now. He does lack some confidence in high pressure situations, but it would be interesting to see how he fares without Max and Red Bull breathing down his neck. Now we are down to the podium places, and at P3 we've got Charles Leclerc, who's received a 8.5 for Racecraft, a 9 for pace, an 8.5 for both adaptability and consistency, which brings his overall score to 8.7. Now Charles was one of the most consistent drivers in the second half of last season, and his one-lap pace and ability to execute some daring moves and overtakes have earned him a reputation of one of the most exciting talents on the grid. It's going to be a fun battle between himself and Hamilton, which brings us to P2. And although most of you might not agree with this, considering Hamilton's recent form, but we still rank him very high, and he's ranked as P2. We've given him a 9 for Racecraft and pace, a 10 for adaptability, and a 9.5 for consistency, bringing his overall score to 9.4. His experience and ability to turn any setback into opportunity is commendable and defines why he is a 7-time world champion. Now, he might have lost touch of his raw pace over the last few years, but that could be down to the Mercedes car as well. And I fully expect him to go back to his 2021 form if Ferrari actually makes a good car this year, which he prefers and feels comfortable driving. But now let's move on to the top step, and that goes to Max Verstappen, who's almost got the perfect score. So he's received a 9 for Racecraft and a 10 for pace, adaptability, and consistency, bringing his overall score to 9.8. Now, Max has dominated the Ground Effects era and has been ridiculously consistent. He does miss out on the perfect score, especially because of Racecraft, as he often tends to go a bit over the limit, but that has earned him 4 Drivers' Championships, making him the gold standard and the one to beat. But that wraps our rankings for all 20 drivers for the 2025 F1 grid. But let us know your top and bottom 5 in the comments down below. We hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, give us a big thumbs up and follow us for more F1 related content. As always, thank you for watching Gridbox.